are doing another live one. What would Keegan sharing it?
Sorry.
What we're going to be doing, whether you watch this live or pre-recorded, is we're going to be watching the Alec Baldwin Unscripted on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. It's the first time he's come out since his shooting on the set of Rust. Big news. We talked about it on here. I do want to watch this thing. We all decided to watch it in its entirety, and we're like, let's just go ahead and
just turn the volume down.
Let's do it live and on camera. So we have made some comments. I don't remember what they all were, so we may get the opportunity to take some of it back or realize what we were wrong about, but maybe also realize what we were right about on some of it. So we're going to be watching this live. If anyone wants to join, any comments you leave, we will we'll read on the air and react to. If you want to watch us along with us, we'll probably pause this intermittently and point out where we're at so you can catch up and watch along with us. But this is, from what I found, it's on Hulu. I looked on YouTube. I couldn't find it. It's like a Hulu special. If you look up Alec Baldwin, it's one of the only things it pulls up, or at least the top thing at the time. It's popular. So yeah, like I said, I have watched it. Keegan and Corey have not. So yeah, we're gonna watch this with you, and we'll try to make it transformative enough that we're not getting removed. We're not going to screen share or anything like that. You'll have to pull it up and watch it yourself, but we're going to have it on the screen here. And part of the time we may talk over it. I mean, this is more our reaction to it than anything, but yeah, we'll try to have it somewhat audible. But
yeah, I have not kept up with a lot of this except for like what I hear on Twitter and shit. So.
And I think a lot of times I really try to not react as soon as there's news because stuff changes so much. I am guilty of when this happened. I made a lot of assumptions, and like I said, we even talked about it on our podcast here. We're making fun of them and talking about this, and
I still
not attributing motive, but kind of joking around about it.
I don't think watching this is going to make me not make fun of him.
It won't make you not make fun of him, and I don't think it will make you feel like it's not his fault. That's the whole time he talks about how it's not his fault or why it's not his fault. I disagree with that entirely. It was definitely his fault, but
let's just jump into it.
But yeah, we'll get some insight that's kind of helpful. Like I said, anyone watching, if you comment, we'll read them live as they come. I probably won't get to keep up with them as much. Anthony says hello. What's up, Anthony?
What up, Anthony? Shout out Coyotes.
But anyway, yeah. So we'll try to keep up with those as they're on. So without further ado, I'm gonna hit the lights here, and it's movie time.
Hollywood star Alec Baldwin a proctor, television director, photography, engineering director. Alec Baldwin speaking exclusively.
I hate how right away they kept calling it a prop gun the whole time. Like that was like a PR thing. Prop gun.
It's a big question, and the one you must have asked yourself 1,000 times. How could this have happened?
I'm gonna leave the subtitles on for you guys so you can watch. So we're watching Alec Baldwin Unscripted. If you want to watch along, we just started here. We're gonna be reacting as we go. So it's on Hulu. Search Alec Baldwin.
I don't like already how smug he's being about it.
He's so unapologetic.
Yeah.
Is the part that drives me nuts. Is he just? It's not my fault. There's nothing I can do. Yeah, like I don't know.
His lawyers telling him to do that.
They have to know about this video. Like, there's no way you'd let a client go out there and just start talking about this.
Nothing off limits.
I don't know about that. Liked and admired by everyone.
Helena, the cinematographer.
Oh, I thought they said Alec.
No, the woman he killed.
Okay, well, my bad. Shout out to her.
I'm not trying to get into conspiracies here, but apparently she was about to drop something about pedophiles.
That was fake.
It was
I saw it too. Yeah, that was fake. There was some crazy
That's what they want
website.
you to think.
You haven't said much in public since that tragic accident. Why speak out now?
Well, I think that there's a criminal investigation. That could be a while.
Yes, killed someone.
There's all kinds of civil
So that happens when somebody dies.
I thought there were a number of misconceptions most of it from sources I really wouldn't concern myself about, but a couple that I did concern myself about, where there were these authoritative statements about this is what happened. The sheriff's department hasn't even released a report to the DA yet. The reason I wanted to sit down with you is because I really feel like I can't wait for that process to end in February, March.
Tom asks why it's
I'm
so
not
dark.
asking them to speak
It's
about
movie
my
time.
benefit.
We're watching Alec Baldwin Unscripted on YouTube or on Hulu, and watch along. It's more of a reaction, but if you want to watch along with us,
I think the big question.
that's the plan.
I don't like the guy, but he does look like shit.
I'm actually I'm going to pause it now just because we're kind of getting through the intro. Anyone who wants to watch, which it shows what we're negative, it doesn't show how far we are. We're at our we are at 2:39. If anyone wants to watch, we got through kind of the intro. This is that's the thing. It's like he does seem upset. That's where, like, when people were like he did it on purpose, it was a conspiracy.
He seems more upset about people disliking him about it than about her dying.
I don't know.
I haven't seen that much.
I know it's important to keep in mind that he's been an actor for like 30, 40 years, but when he starts talking about it, I'll put it this way. For people making fun of the way Kyle Rittenhouse was like crying in court when he was talking about it, this seems pretty genuine. Now, again, Kyle Rittenhouse is not an actor, but beside the
He
point.
also had the same reaction when he got acquitted.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I believe he was happy about that. And that was
He's
good
also
too.
he's also a kid, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
There's two things I want to say about that. One is that when I talk about this, my concern is that I don't sound like I'm the victim. Because there is a victim. There's a woman who died, and my friend got shot. He's my friend. And she was a new friend. I met her. We worked together on some of the mapping out of what we were going to do on the film, which, in the movie terms, if you go make a movie with Scorsese, you and the DP don't sit down and they solicit your ideas of how to make the film. You know what I mean? In the case of Alina, we sat down collaboratively and talked a lot about what we wanted to do.
Was that a shot at
The
Scorsese?
precious amount of time we have.
I don't think so.
But I want to make sure that I don't come across like I'm the victim, because we have two victims here. And the second thing is that all of what happened on that day leading up to this event was precipitated on one idea, and that is that Helena and I had something profound in common. And that is, we both assumed the gun was empty.
Now, he drives that point home so much throughout this. That's the only part that kind of drives me
The
nuts.
problem is that you assume this is empty.
I worked on a project with Joel before.
Very true.
Right. He did this movie Crown Vic that I produced, and Joel and I stayed in touch. We're friends, and I loved Russ. He said, "I want to send you this," and I read it, and I said, "I love it. I love it."
Rust, a low-budget western, tells the story of an aging outlaw on the run with his young grandson. Baldwin, the film's star, is also one
Was
of
the
the
movie
producers.
canceled?
Very
I would
excited.
assume so.
There's no way.
So excited before
I don't think it'll
because
come out.
every independent film has many false starts. When it finally goes, you feel like a plane. When you finally get some lift under your wings, it's very, very gratifying. I am a purely creative producer. My authorities as a producer are casting and script, which are actually married to the role of being a lead actor in a film.
So you're not the kind of producer who's looking at the line item of each budget.
No. There are basically two types of producers who are really in charge of production. People
What the
that raise
hell?
the money and the people who spend the money. My consultations or approvals were completely about casting.
I'm sorry.
and script.
How hard he's trying to, like, I had nothing to do with it.
That, and it just seems like Stephanopoulos is giving him fucking softball quick.
Yeah.
Like, he's really trying to frame it like he's the victim here.
I'm very excited. She's wonderful.
What did you know about Alina Hutchins before she started working on
I
this?
knew nothing about her until Joel said to me, I got her. She was fantastic.
Alina Hutchins, the talented cinematographer praised by many in the industry, was a trailblazer in a field historically dominated by men.
Later in this, the questions get a little more hard hitting.
Sure hope so.
Like, he makes him answer a question that I think if he knew the answer, he would have worded it differently, because it is a little brutal.
I don't know. That seems like an actor cry to me.
I was gonna say
Hang on, because I kind of wondered that at first. I'm like, he's keeping his face covered.
Sorry.
but he's used to this.
I know.
Yeah, but this sad music in the background that should setting the moment for him just feels so.
I'm sure you
I
guys
don't
have heard about Travis Scott, right?
Yeah.
About what?
Travis Scott.
Oh yeah.
And everybody was shitting on his apology film.
Oh, that was horrible.
And he's not even an actor.
That was horrible.
This guy is, and nobody's saying a word. He pointed a gun at someone and killed them.
They're showing the location. How many movies have been made here? It's kind of interesting, really, to see like how many times stuff had been there.
Yeah.
The date I flew there, they've been shooting for a week already. I come the following week on the 11th. That night of the 11th, I had dinner with Helena and Joel. And we talked about some of the compositions I was thinking of to.
That was the first time you met?
First time I met Helena.
What was your first impression?
When I met her, I knew she had that spark. I knew she had that flint to her, but she was going to get
That's so
that
weird.
day's work done and get the shot that she wanted. She was very focused.
She had a
You're-
vision.
She was very focused. We
Yeah.
had a discussion about compositions of
Because like this
shots
is
which we're
something
shooting.
normally when you watch this,
Beautiful
it's like something that happened
tempos
10,
in the
15 years ago. This is
West.
like
She had that
a month
intensity.
ago.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of crazy when they're like, for the first time since. I'm like, it was a month and a half ago.
And I was gonna say it's not the first time I've seen it, that interview on the side of the road. He's been a dickhead.
She knew that
They show that with the full context of what he was saying. I don't blame him at all there. He said something. It's like, my kids are in the car crying.
I wanna
Like,
say, I
please
think
just
it's a reflection of this really kind of appalled. It's a moment. But we're here. Should the film will start tomorrow? And no, I'm not playing Santa Claus. On the 12th, I had a safety demonstration with Hannah Reed, the armorer.
24-year-old.
This lady-
Oh,
Some of
the
it's
armorer.
Yeah.
That's where.
Oh well, okay. Well, you can just turn this off. It all makes sense.
Oh, a woman.
Oh, okay. Not a
I
woman.
know.
She spoke to the Voices of the West podcast about working as lead armorer for her first film.
This was only her second
I
movie.
was really nervous about it at first, and I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready. But doing it, like, it went really smoothly.
We spent an hour and a half
She
shooting.
sounds stupid.
Her giving me all her safety.
So,
She was
like I said, I don't want to do this too much, but I do.
assumed
I'm going to
because she
pause
was
right
there
here.
and She was hired.
Huh?
She was.
I said I don't want to do this too much, but I am going to pause right here.
Oh, well, it's okay. That's kind of what it's supposed to be.
She says, this was her second job. Now, she obviously said this before,
Mhm.
but she comes out and says, she's like, I was really nervous to. This is her second movie.
Yeah.
After the first movie, before this movie, she's on a podcast. So I almost didn't do it. I didn't feel like I was ready. And now her second movie has this happen.
You
And
weren't ready.
you're on the record not that long ago. Just like, I wasn't sure I was ready. It's like, that's going to be tough because you said you didn't think you were cut out for this
I can
job.
already tell you the theme they're going for. They're trying to make it seem like there's no reason he should have known. Because when he was talking about his role in directing, oh, it was purely creative. I was just script, and you can see
Like I
how
said,
they're building this.
there are ways-
This is such a fluff piece, in my opinion.
I agree, but at the same time, I don't think anyone who knows what they're talking about could hear what he says and still, like, I know what you're saying. Like, there's no way he should have known, but anyone who knows what they're talking about can still see it and be like, yeah. Like, I don't know if you read the
No,
messages I was
My
sending.
point is he's trying to paint that narrative, and it's so see-through. He's trying to paint the narrative. How would I have known?
I agree, but what I'm saying is I think that's a poor narrative to go with because knowing anything, I'm like, idiot. Like, even your story is not good.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, even what you're saying is, I don't know if you read the messages. When I watched this last night, I was messaging one of our groups, and I was talking about it. And there's a point in here where he says what happened, and I face palmed in real. I was by myself, and I saw it go.
Kind of like how we all just did when they showed the armorer.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. But yeah, I saw him say what happened, and I'm like, well, no shit. So that's what I mean. Like, even if this, like I said, I do believe this was made to kind of be a fluff piece for him, and here's my side of it. Like, let me get out in front of this.
That's how much he doesn't have a story, though.
But I don't. Even your story is not good.
Yeah.
And I'm not. To be clear, I'm not necessarily doubting anything other than that he says it's not his fault, and I still think it is. But we'll keep watching.
Any red flags?
One more thing.
Anyone watching along, we are at 8:34.
Hold on. Also, it's not because she's a woman. If they had shown like a
kidding.
Gina Carano type woman, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like,
I was
makes sense.
kidding.
She's hot. But this is stupid. I don't. Anybody that saw that could be like, why? Why? That's what Hollywood thinks an armorer is.
Well, I don't know if they said while we were talking. Her dad was an armorer like years ago in movies, so it's like I guess she probably knows a decent amount. But are you qualified to be in that leadership role of handling stuff and telling everyone and
First
explaining the
impression
safety?
of her is
and
not great. I'll say that.
I hear you.
This training course you do, what did she tell you?
She say things like, remember, this is a blank round, so you have to create the discharge yourself with no projectile. So if you shot the gun, you go bang. We're going to come, you go bang.
This is the most obvious fluff piece I've ever
She'd
seen.
give you little tips about firing. And she'd say to you, when we're done, put the gun down. When we're done, you give the gun to me or to Halls, only those two people.
Dave Halls was Russ's
This part's interesting,
also
too.
known as the first AD. Seen here in this IMDb photo, he was responsible for keeping the production
Now,
on schedule.
Have you ever heard of any movie where it's like other? I don't know how much you watch it. Either one of you watched this. I've seen armorers before, and it's like I've seen what they do before this happened. I've seen it like they show John Wick behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah, there's a famous clip of Will Smith.
Yeah. Have you ever seen it where it's like you can give it to me or the assistant director? Like,
Yeah.
No.
and I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying this seems like it was a sketchy situation all the way around.
But when we would say cut, if Hannah was away from the set, I would hand Halls the gun.
Why would she ever be away from the set when
Yeah,
you're
that's
handling
her one
guns? That's her
job.
job.
Armorer, and she was also the assistant prop master for the film. One of the things her attorney has said is that she was hired for 2 positions on the film and therefore was stretched. in an
But she took the
inappropriate
job.
way. Did she raise any of those
Yeah,
concerns
well,
with you?
I don't know.
No, I assume
It's another one of those things where when he says I was a producer, but I didn't do this. My thing was, it's like
lower budget
picture
film
a branch manager of a place, and it's like you weren't keeping track of people's time off, and it's like, well, I focus more on this. It doesn't matter what you actually do. That is your like as a producer. He blames producers later, and he can say he's not that kind of producer. But it's like, well, it doesn't matter what you did if that's your job and you're just not doing it. You're not like, oh, well, I didn't do that.
There was any problem with anybody in the crew of the film was when Luber said, well, we have some issues here.
Lane Looper, the first camera assistant, would email production managers a resignation letter later that night, citing safety concerns. Quote, during the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. So far, there have been 2 accidental weapons discharges.
How is this not news already before?
Oh, it was.
For local crew with long commutes.
Among the conspiracy groups.
When he quit, now the day before that happened, we wrapped. And he came up to me and he said, thank you for the position you've taken on behalf of IATSE and the union on social media. I said, my pleasure.
This photo, posted by Helena, showed the cast and crew in solidarity with IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees.
This is
which had been on the
again
verge
for
of
anyone
strike.
just joining. We're watching the Alec Baldwin special on Hulu with ABC. George Stephanopoulos talking about the shooting.
Go on strike. Because I'll tell you something about the executives. They don't give a about you. He said, because we have some issues here. I said, such as? And he said, my men need a better hotel room. We don't mention of safety issues.
He didn't say anything about the accident.
He didn't.
Charges on set.
He didn't say anything about anything. He goes,
Some of
"My
that
men
Lane
need a
Looper
better
guy?
hotel room."
Yeah, the guy
I
who
said, well, we're
quit.
waiting, we're wrapping. Will you
And
be
why
here
when he
tomorrow?
quit,
He
did
said,
he
yes.
cite the
Because what I was
safety
about to
stuff?
do, which I've done.
this seems like it was before he made the decision like to quit. He's just like, I might quit or I have problems.
Pay for X. And I was about to say to him, let me know what it would be to B&B you guys in a house that's closer to the, how we can address your problem. I will be happy to contribute to that. The next day they were gone.
So you had no sense from anyone on the set that people had been stretched to the point where safety was compromised.
Hold on.
No.
Stephanopoulos has something on his glasses. How did nobody see that?
Told ABC News, Mr. Looper's allegations. were
Baldwin's got trash bags under his eyes.
Yeah, I know. That's
It
what I
looks
said. He looks
horrible.
like shit.
Surprising.
He is
His
probably
job
stressed
was
the
to be a
fuck out.
camera
I'm
operator,
sure.
and he had absolutely nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols or budgets. Safety is always the #1 priority on our films.
When people say cutting costs, I don't say this with any judgment or any cynicism. Spielberg wants to save money. Tom Cruise wants to save money. Everybody who makes movies has a responsibility not to be reckless and careless with the money that you're given. Those are men who make movies that cost $205 million. And I'm making movies that cost $5 million.
The question though is, were costs being cut at the expense of safety and security?
In my opinion, no, because
How can you say, in your opinion, no?
Observe any safety or security issues at all in the time I was there.
Okay, then how can you say it wasn't a concern that you didn't even ask?
Right. Or if you didn't observe. Oh, I don't know.
Back to in person at the office.
But like you said, you can't say, "Well, that's not my job." It is your job. You just didn't care. You can't use the defense that I didn't care about that part of it.
Filming continued with a replacement camera crew. Scene 118 in the church was slated for.
I like how he's talking about the cost of the movie and
Everybody
stuff,
there
and it ended up
was
costing someone's life.
Yeah.
having a positive experience. People who are watching the show, people who back up, you have no idea how unique an environment a motion picture set is. It's kind of, there's an instant familiarity. The amount of care, these are people
You see how little eye contact he's
who
making?
have really good jobs in a field they love.
I'm just saying that's like a classic thing.
And I looked
Is
at
he
all
taking
these
his
people
glasses
and I
on
see
now?
how hard they work.
Yeah, he is, isn't
They're
he?
so
I just noticed that.
Stephanopoulos, he is.
hardworking and they're so conscientious. And you're around, and you're part of one of the great collaborative processes in the world, movie making. Everyone moving like a watch to get everything.
You know what I
They're
do
back
believe?
on.
I don't make that many movies anymore.
You know what I do believe is he does really seem to have a passion for making movies. He talks about it again later. It is cool. Like kind of how during our podcast a few minutes ago, how we were talking about like what's cool about like the mechanical function of cars or guns or whatever. He really is into that. It is interesting because you never see people talk about it emotionally. Like they'll talk about how cool it is when they're doing a press tour or whatever.
Before they called lunch, I said, this movie has made me love making movies again. Because I used to love to make movies. I did. You know, I worked with people once. I was going to do the movie The Edge. And they called me and said,
Look how young he is there.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. I started sobbing. I just started sobbing because I thought, oh God, I have a chance to work with this guy. Any chance in the movies, you know.
I just like how this is geared towards about him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Kind of. Well, that's why I said we need to watch the whole thing because it does kind of storytell. Like this is before anything happened.
Producer on this?
Huh?
Is he a producer on this?
They have their dreams. No matter how old you are, you have your dreams of people you want to work with. And this movie made me love making movies again. I really thought we were onto something.
Next,
On the
She
trigger.
goes down. I thought to myself, did she faint?
This part, like coming up, it almost feels like he's overselling like the shock, and maybe he's not. I don't know. It's like I understand what he's describing, but I don't understand how it's not even a thought.
For
Right?
somebody who's so scared of guns, you'd think that it
Right.
would be paranoia.
True.
it was the 12th day of their 21-day shoot.
That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Baldwin was preparing for his next scene, a shootout inside this wooden church. Set the scene right before that happened. You're sitting in a pew in the church.
But
What's the scene supposed to be?
the scene is the two guys are there who have got me, cornered, and they think I'm shot pretty bad, and I'm kind of wilting, and they have a gun, and then a sound outside distracts them, and I would draw the gun, cross-draw out of my holster, pull the gun up like that.
Like this is the way he like holds it.
I handed the
Like,
gun, and someone declared, I said, "This is a cold gun."
Dave Halls.
The first AD, in my years on the sets of film, hot gun meant that there was a charge in there, and cold gun meant there was nothing in there.
Why would they ever use a hot
This
gun
is
if you don't
a
have
cold
to?
gun. What he's saying to everybody on the set is you can relax. The gun is empty.
Doesn't matter what people tell you.
Well, cold gun means there's no charge in there. There could be dummy rounds.
The dummy
Does
round looks
not
like a real
matter.
one, but it's completely inert. It contains no explosive charge. and you were rehearsing that scene.
If you're handling
think-
a firearm, that is completely your. It doesn't
I
matter if you're
agree,
$100
100%.
billion
And if you have an armorer, they would say that. I don't think there's any time.
Here.
She's standing next to the camera. She's like this, you or me. She got a monitor here. The camera is here filming that way. She takes a monitor that is his monitor, the operator, and turns it toward her. It swivels, and she says to me, "Hold the gun lower. Go to your right. Okay, right there. All right, do that. Now turn a little bit lower." And she's getting me to position the gun. Everything is in her direction. She's guiding me through.
kinda
She
eerie.
wants me to hold the gun for this angle, and I draw the gun out. When I find a mark, I draw the gun out. I go cock. And what's really urgent is
So he's like practicing where he's going to aim it.
in that angle.
So if you're shooting directly into the camera lens, you're not aiming.
I'm not shooting to the camera lens. I'm shooting just off,
Just off.
right, in her direction. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it.
So the gun's not pointed right at the camera. It's to the left of the camera, but she's to the left of the camera.
This was a complete.
But the trigger wasn't pulled, right?
An angle that may not have
Well-
ended up in the film at all. But we kept doing this. And I said to her, "Now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun." I said, "Do you want to see that?" And she said, "Yes." So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, "Do you see that?" She said, "We'll just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that." And I cock the gun and go, "Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that?" And she says, and I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
Right there.
I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
If the
No shit.
Yeah,
That-
of course it did.
That's the part when I saw
it
that.
wasn't in the script.
We're gonna pause it right here. That's the part that I slapped my head like, no shit. Like, it's a single action revolver they were
Okay,
using in
you
the movie.
said when we talked about the part where he said, I didn't pull the trigger. And you're like, oh, that's what they want you to think to watch it.
Because
As bad as
what
I thought.
what he just said is as bad as I pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Because all the trigger does, the hammer, for people who don't know,
This is as basic as gun mechanics as it gets.
because it's the oldest, most
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the common sense here. It's an old movie. It's an old gun. It's primitive technology. It's very basic technology. So the hammer has a spring. It wants to be forward. Once it's cocked and locked into its spot in the trigger, that's what the trigger does, is just release the hammer. Like it moves, allowing the hammer to slam forward. So if you have the hammer all the way back, you don't have to pull the, if it cocks, then you have to pull the trigger. But if he's back a little bit, and gets it right before it cocks and then lets go, that's as bad as pulling the trigger. So
It's
yeah,
insane.
If the scenario is as he pointed, it wouldn't matter if he did pull the trigger because it wouldn't be his fault anyway because it's supposed to be a cold gun. You can't use
Well,
the argument, I didn't pull the trigger, but I also.
I don't think what he's saying now is an argument. I think he's describing what happened. And like in the
Which
Thing I was
destroys his argument.
oh hey Sean says oops sorry. He says what's up, Kyle? Good to see you. This guy I went to basic training with.
Oh, shit, okay.
Super cool dude. He's up in Cleveland.
There you go.
Yeah, shout out.
Shout out Guardians.
So yeah, when he says I release a hammer, I forget where exactly it was, but I'm like, that's as bad as pulling the trigger. So I don't think he's trying to use it as an out. I think he's describing what happened. But like I said in our chat the other day, that was the part when he said that, I go, what? Like that's not an out.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, because he is anti-gun, he stays away from guns. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe because he's scared of guns, he's anti-gun. Either way, he's got no familiarity. And somebody with no familiarity, I don't want to say should never handle them because that's how you get comfortable with them. It's not like if you didn't grow up with them, there's no
Shouldn't
chance to
point
learn.
them at people for a movie.
But you shouldn't point them at people for a movie. And I'll get into it here in a little bit. But at one point, he's talking about the movie and he's like, well, you have to get the shot. And I'm like, the rules don't go away. Like the firearm safety rules don't go away just because you're making a movie.
Yeah.
Like the gun does not care if you're making a movie. So for example, like we've done some cool photo shoots and stuff we've used on the channel and stuff, but stuff that we have done like photo shoots with Ty or whatever, where I'm holding up, like it may make a really cool shot if I have it pointed right at the camera, but doing that would mean I'm pointing it right at the operator of the camera. So we're not going to get that shot because that's not something I'm going to do. Just because it's a movie does not.
It would be a
Make
great
it not
shot
count.
in baseball if the batter could wear the camera on his helmet.
Well, yeah, it'd be really cool to have it right behind the mound and just looking over the
argument.
pitcher's shoulder. But
Oh, geez.
it's just a stupid argument.
I let go of the hammer of the gun.
And this is ignorance.
That was the one with the gun. Yeah, that was the one with the gun.
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you
That's what
pulled
they-
the trigger.
That's what they showed.
I would never point a gun at me and pull a trigger. Never. That was the training that I had. You don't point a gun at me and pull a trigger.
The training I had.
Someone else.
The training I had, literally the most basic of firearm safety.
From a blue
Don't
haired
point the
woman.
gun at somebody and pull the trigger. And he's like, that's the training I had.
From a purple and yellow haired woman, right?
that part's what got me. That's a training I had. You don't point a gun at somebody and pull the trigger. Oh shit.
That's what I don't understand. For all the experience he has, I understand that this armor, if they're trying to pin it on her, that she did a bad job.
She did too. That's the thing. Like, there's dual responsibility here.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
100% still on him.
But with his career, has he never worked with firearms in any other?
Oh, they get into it later.
Okay.
And yeah.
Business people said to me, never take a gun and go click, 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 because even though it's incremental, you damage the firing pin on the gun.
For anyone watching, we are now at just shy of 20 minutes.
If he knows that, he needs to understand what pulling the hammer back does.
People said to me, never take a gun and go click, 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 because even though it's incremental, you damage the firing pin on the gun when you do that.
If you know what a firing pin is, then you should know what the hell.
That he was watching and agrees that
Unless you're just repeating what you're told.
and that his finger was outside the trigger bar. So you have this close 40.
I keep checking to make sure we haven't been copyright struck yet.
We're smart, that is a copy, yeah.
You're holding onto the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm going to show you. Well, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? He said, she goes, yeah, that's good. I'm not going hammer. Bang. The gun goes.
Whoa.
Everyone is horrified. They're shocked. It's loud. They don't have their earplugs in. The gun was supposed to be empty. I was told I was handed an empty gun. If there were cosmetic rounds, nothing with a charge at all, or a flash round, nothing. She goes down. I look to myself. Did she faint? The notion that there was a live round in that gun did not dawn on me till probably 45 minutes to an hour later.
45 minutes to an hour.
That's my reaction. What?
Sometimes those blank rounds have a wadding inside that packs like a cloth that packs the gunpowder in. Sometimes wadding comes out and can hit people and it could feel like a little bit of a poke. But no one could understand, did she have a heart attack? Because remember,
Isn't it
the
pretty
idea
obvious
that
if
someone
somebody
put
gets
a
shot?
live bullet in the gun was...
Well, especially when he describes how and where.
I went up to her and then
Colt
we were
45?
totally get out of the building. We were forced
Now, he did say immediately they're like, yeah, which I could
to
see.
her for 60 seconds.
But 60 seconds would be enough to tell someone.
Was she conscious?
My recollection is yes.
911, what's the location of your emergency? We need a ambulance.
Just pure ignorance. And I don't mean the way most people say ignorant. I mean literally just ignorant as to how things work.
Director Joel Souza is also wounded. His shoulder hit by the same bullet that traveled through Helena.
When she went down, he went down, and he was screaming really loudly. And I thought, what is he screaming? What happened?
Okay, so you said did she faint, and you also thought he went down screaming too, right after a gunshot?
Yeah, it seems a little stupid to me that no one would have any clue what happened.
This is why people that don't know what they're talking about shouldn't hear
Within
the pilot.
15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Not alone without anybody, which, and to be fair, that's what an armor is for. I don't expect every actor to be an expert with guns like Keanu Reeves.
I have a theory, but I'll save it to you.
She was in the church, and she was not taken out of the church for quite a while.
In the aftermath, there was chaos and confusion. But nobody told you what happened?
No.
Did you know?
It wasn't until I was in the police station, hours later. I mean, it was like seeing aliens. It was utter disbelief over the idea. It was unacceptable, the idea that it was a live round. And finally, one of the police officers, at the conclusion of my interview, I was there for like an hour and a half or so, she takes her phone and she slides it across to me. She says, that's what came out of Joel's shoulder.
Oh, it's a 45?
Yeah.
Did you know that Joel had been?
Yeah.
No one had any idea until that police officer, that sheriff's officer.
I don't know if we were talking over it or not. They said, like, under her armpit?
Out of Joel's arm.
If it goes through
And then
you're either hitting back. Like I just talked about, like where you want to hit a deer. I'm like,
agony.
can you get much?
Someone,
Especially if it goes through her and into someone else. Yikes!
Oh, God, I didn't know it was a 45.
Yeah, an old Colt 45.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's rough.
45 slug.
Was there no recoil?
Tonight.
Well, even if there's,
You know how we've talked before about how like ear pro and recoil and all that's like different when you're shooting at an animal?
Yes.
If you're not expecting it to go off and it does, I know it's not the same thing as like an adrenaline rush when hunting, but I can imagine like, holy shit, like, you know what I mean? I really
feel like if you're pointing at a fucking 45 caliber at somebody and it goes off in your hand, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, did she faint?" And the guy behind her goes down screaming like, "Oh, she must have fainted. We should get out of here."
And then he said he stood over for 60 seconds. That's what I'm saying. If it hits here and goes completely through you and into someone else,
Well, that's why the
I
question
think
was she
fairly
conscious. He's like, "Oh, yeah, she might have been. Was she dead?" Like,
not to make light of this, I'm laughing at what you said.
no, not her,
the
but
situation,
it's
obviously.
just the audacity of this dude to feed us this bullshit.
I want to be clear too. There's going to be times that I mention something like overly conspiratorial, like just for conversation's sake. There's going to be other times where I sound like I'm defending him. I'm playing devil's advocate. You
I
know,
already
like,
have my own thoughts.
I know you
and I
do.
haven't heard this anywhere, but as we're watching this, I'm formulating. So go ahead.
Well, sometimes it's almost good. You're coming into this with fresh eyes. Like you didn't follow this story
At
much
all.
at all anyway. So anyone watching, we are at 23:30.
Films hit movie in New Mexico.
Something went horribly wrong here in Santa Fe.
We've all seen the picture of you off the set in that hour or so after the gun went off. What were you doing? What was going through your mind?
At the end of, she was laying there, and she was there for a while. I was amazed at how long they didn't get her in a car and get her up, but they waited and a helicopter came. And by the time the helicopter took off with her and literally lifted off, we were all glued to that process outside. When she finally left, I don't know how long it was she was there, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, it seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, well, she's stable. Like nobody, just as
You think she was
disbelieved
alive
that it was a
this whole
live
time?
round in the gun, you disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
So you didn't know exactly how serious it
At the
was.
very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, we regret to tell you that she didn't make it, she died. They told me right then and there. And that's when I went in the parking lot and called my wife to talk to my wife.
Shock and grief. Helena's husband, Matthew, posted a tribute to Helena. Helena inspired us all with her passion and vision.
That sucks,
And her
man.
legacy is too meaningful to encapsulate in words. Our loss is enormous.
When this happened, her husband comes to town. Her husband, Matthew. And I met with him and their son. And he was as kind as you could be.
How can you possibly say to him?
I didn't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes like, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are. You know, and his little boy there who's 9 years old.
This part's horrible.
6
Like just
kids
thinking
now.
about it. Not
Yeah, I literally had chills. Oh god.
My oldest is 8. I have a 9-month-old baby. And I think to myself, this little boy doesn't have a mother anymore. And I know that in my life, I'm with my kids, and I'm doing quite well with my kids. My kids and I are having a great time, right until my wife walks in the room. And then I become invisible. My kids all go and they jump on top of their mother. And this boy doesn't have a mother anymore.
It's horrible.
And
And fault or not, that's just
bring her back.
Yeah, it
Same.
doesn't matter whose fault it is.
And I told him, I said, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convey to you how sorry I am and how I'm willing to do anything I can to cooperate.
In the aftermath of the shooting, a torrent of criticism.
The first thing you do when you pick up that gun is you make sure.
real quick. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember what I was gonna say.
That's jarring.
that
That
sucks.
sucks.
Oh yeah, I was like, when he's talking about like, what do you say? It's so like, I've known people where like someone passed away and like I don't even know what to say. Like I had nothing to do with it. It's just like, Look, you're not gonna be like, so how's it going? Like, pretty fucking bad. Like, what do you think? You know, so like it's like I don't know what to say. I can't even imagine being the one. Like I said, he does not believe he's at fault, but still being the one that did it. It's so funny because that's so hard to say. He's the one who did it, but not like he doesn't think responsible. Like, you did it.
That's what makes me mad. If he could at least say he did it, but go with that story that you pulled the hammer back and you didn't know that would do it. Okay, roll with that. But if that's your story, at least own that at the very least.
For sure. Yeah, it's
His lawyer is not letting him.
That it's never pointed at anybody.
He should have known that an AD handing you a gun and saying it's cold isn't the same as several people showing you an empty gun.
If I were holding that gun, I would have checked it. Wouldn't you?
Okay.
People said to me, I've got countless people online saying, you idiot, you never.
I do like that five.
Of course she's gonna say that.
Right.
And it's the director of photography who's instructing you.
Nope, that's not the rule. He said never point a gun at somebody unless it's empty.
That's what I mean. Like, he keeps acting like because it's a movie, the rules don't apply.
No, nobody says don't aim a gun at somebody unless it's empty. I've never heard anybody say that.
Oh, yeah, no, I do remember him saying that. Yeah, like I said, I didn't hear it just now. I just watched it last night.
You're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
So profound. I love this thought here. Listen to George Stephanopoulos.
Responsibilities remains to be seen. But I do.
There are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
Fucking anybody would do.
Unless the person was
There are some people who would say you shouldn't point a gun at somebody.
That's exactly what happened. That day, I did
No,
exactly
no.
what I've done every.
Now, what's weird to me, what's kind of eerie is the thought is, again, assuming everything he's saying is true, it's eerie to picture her like looking at it and basically like little up, little right, and basically just guiding him right to, like, isn't that like she's oblivious to it, which, not that she did anything wrong, but maybe not being cautious or familiar, you know, just like
I mean,
that it's not something
no
top of mind.
disrespect, not trying to like
No.
pile on, but it's a little her responsibility if that's really is how it is.
Well,
Don't
I'll
have
put it
somebody
this way.
point a gun at you.
I've been places where like it's someone like I don't necessarily want to correct, you know, like I want to name anybody specifically, but not peers. Not like if one of you guys pointed a gun at me or flagged me, I'm like, hey, motherfucker, you know, like. But there's been people I don't want to say that to, but they're being a little, and it's like one that I just handled and I know is empty. Like they'll show me one, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I had that. This happened recently. I'll look at them like, yeah, it's nice. I hand it back, and then they grab it. And they're just talking and just flagging me over and over. And I want to be like, can you not? Let's. I actually did it one time. Someone did that, and I was trying to like, let's. And I kind of like stop. But so, yeah, ideally, in a perfect world, she would have known to do that. Like, hey. But again, if she's just not familiar, she's not the armorer. She's not the producer. She's not the one handling the gun. She doesn't have a responsibility to do it. But it is just kind of eerie thought that she's basically guiding him to point it right at her. Again, assuming exactly what he says is accurate.
Okay, on that movie,
Which is what?
person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun from her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Which is what?
Which is that there's an armorer there, and that word is new to me. In the years I've been in this,
What did you call it?
It was a prop guy or woman. And the prop person would come and sometimes they
Oh,
would insist on
that's a guy.
demonstrating for you and the camera crew. They take the gun, if it was a contemporary gun, they show you the chamber, they show you the clip, they say, the gun is cold. And you look at it and go, thank you. And
But-
in the 40 years.
This is a few more times. Trust me,
Not
not.
all the time.
Well, but no, sometimes they wouldn't demonstrate to me. Some insisted on demonstrating. They would do the
They all
demonstration
should.
for everybody there right before we rolled the camera. Or rehearsed. Then there were others who they didn't do that because I trusted them to do the job. And again, this is not just me pointing a gun at somebody else, people pointing guns at me. Well, I've gotten shot and killed in films before where people had to shoot.
Before he said end films, I was like,
And I
what?
trusted them to do their job. And in the 40 years I've been in this business, all the way up until that day, I never had a problem.
How many times do you think you handled a gun in those 40 years?
Oh, God, I don't know. What amazes me is How many rounds of bullets do you believe have been fired on the sets of movies and TV shows in the last 75 years?
No idea.
Right. It could even be above 1 billion. You've had hundreds and hundreds of millions of bullets fired on the sets of films and TV shows. And 4 or 5 people were killed. Now those deaths are tragic and abhorrent. And believe me, I would do anything in my power. I would do anything in my power to undo what was done. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know. But I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where
That's
we're
another
this is
thing I'm
less likely to
confused
happen
about.
again.
What's
That's
that?
the line
Every
around.
single time I'm handed a gun on the set.
They go into that a little more.
They hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show
Oh yeah, sorry. This is George Clooney. This was savage. I missed this one.
This is less likely to happen again.
it. Every single time I'm handed a gun on the set. Every time. They hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, we show it to the crew. Every single take, you hand it back to the armor when you're done, you do it again. Everyone does. Everybody does it.
How do you respond to members like George Clooney?
He
who
was
say that
pissed.
Every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves.
Well, there were a lot of people who
This is
felt
the
it
most
necessary to
arrogant
contribute
part.
some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. You know,
That should be everybody's protocol.
Was that not the most arrogant? When I saw that part, any building, I don't want to say sympathy, but like benefit of the doubt that I was maybe getting when he said, if that's your protocol, good for you. I'm like,
George Clooney's never shot anybody.
100%. And he said something here. He's like, that's not the way I do it. I've never had a problem. I'm like,
Well, you just
until
did.
you killed somebody. I'm like,
The people who preach gun safety know 99.9% of the time it's not going to happen. But the results or the fucking stakes of what happens at one time. That's why.
That's what I mean. This is the part where I was like, are you serious? Like, yeah. Sorry.
contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. You know, you handle weapons as much as any other actor in films.
Just lost everything he had going.
Again,
Yeah.
shooting or being shot by someone. And in that time, I had a protocol, and it never let me down.
Little
Fingers on the trigger right there, pointing at the guy. He said he'd never do
40
that.
years not to check the gun yourself.
What I was taught by someone years ago was, as I said, if I took a gun and I popped a clip out of a gun, or I manipulated the chamber of a gun, they would take it out
bothers
of
me
me
so
and redo it.
much.
Should have had a shot game ready for every time he called something the wrong word.
When I was young. And they'd
Can
say,
you get your
one
mouse
thing
off
you
the
need to
pause
understand
button
is
so
we
I
don't
go
want
back?
the actor to be the last line of defense against a catastrophic breach of safety.
Now, I disagree with that thought, but I do believe that somebody probably told him that.
My job is to make sure the gun is safe and that I hand you the gun.
Just to get anybody who didn't hear, he said that in his experience, what he was taught was that the armorer said, "You don't check it." If he handed the gun to somebody and they checked it, he would take it and redo it. He's like, "Stop screwing with it. I checked it. That's what I'm here for. Don't do it." I could see some cocky armorer being like,
If you're Alec Baldwin, you say, "No, I'm going to check it."
Yeah,
I would buy
George
this from
Clooney.
some low-level actor.
I agree, but I don't know. Like I said, I do believe somebody probably told him that at some point. Doesn't that sound kind of like the arrogant thing? Like, no, you don't mess with it. Like, it's perfect. I'm the only one who can do this. Don't touch it. I could see that.
I
kind of
don't see anybody getting a job as an armorer in a movie that would be mad at more gun safety.
I agree. And like I said, I'm not saying it's right. I disagree wholeheartedly with
I know
that
you're just
philosophy.
playing devil's advocate. It's just it's really hard to.
John's not here, so I gotta do it.
Breach of safety with the gun. My job, they told me, man or woman, my job is to make sure the gun is safe and that I hand you the gun and I declare the gun safe. The crew's not relying on you to say that it's safe. They're relying on me to say that it's safe. When that person who's charged with that job handed me the weapon, I trusted them and I never had a problem.
And this was from the beginning of your career.
From day one, there's one person that's supposed to make sure that what is in the
You just
gun
have a
is
drill
right,
sergeant who
what's
everything
wrong
from
is
day
not in
one.
the gun.
From day
One person has that responsibility to maintain the gun. And
What is the actor's responsibility?
I guess that's a tough question because the actor's responsibility
Very
going
tough
this day
question.
forward is very different than it was the day before that. Yeah,
Now that I did it, it's different.
Okay.
It wasn't my responsibility before, but it
That was a
is.
solid question, George. Good job.
I can't. When you say what is the actor's responsibility, the actor's responsibility is to
Not shoot
do
you.
what the prop armorer tells him to do.
Does that not sound like a third grade like homework question? Like where you like answer overly specifically and you don't give it any thought. I'm talking about like the homework thing, like where you don't give any thought to it. You just are like so focused on answering this question right that you're not really getting the principle correct. Like,
Exactly.
the actor's job is to do what the prop armorer tells them to do. Well, no, think outside the box a little bigger picture. But I just love that. It says the actor's job is to do what the armorer tells them to do. Like, okay.
Do what the prop armorer tells him to do. And we did not have a problem. I mean, I understand there was an accidental discharge at one point on the set of a blank round.
No
We
biggie.
did not have a problem for me until that day. Everything gets slowed down. Zapruder film-esque here. The issue with that is there's only one question to be resolved. Only one. That is, where did the live round come from?
The only thing that's not my fault. That should be the only question.
Here's the thing, I'm like, so like, can you read and all that stuff? They're amazing actors. I'm not discrediting his acting over the 30, 40 years that he's acted.
Right.
But like people like him, Keanu Reeves, takes like I've seen videos of him at shooting ranges.
Yeah.
I've seen
For John Wick.
tactical and shit.
I think I brought it up on the live stream we did before, but the Breaking Bad cast.
Yeah.
They hired on professional firearms instructors that dealt with I don't know if you guys watched Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
very end.
Oh, the
shoot
big-
the DEA.
Yeah.
And there's just machine guns going off left and right.
Yeah.
Firearms instructors and all that, they handled that entire scene basically themselves. Like other than that, it was just the directors. But that just shows you how much like a little bit of money can be invested. Like he was talking in the beginning, like, oh, we gotta save money. Like, I mean, he didn't say that, but
Well, right. Talking about it was a fairly low budget.
and it's just like that little bit of money could have saved this woman's life. Could have kept that from other guy from getting shot.
We all
It-
feel terrible for Alec Baldwin financially.
If there's any section in a film's budget, and I know we're saying this about this, so again, I'm not trying to be like the homework kid that I was just talking about, being like, now that we're talking about this, and as firearm guys, of course, we kind of think this way, but if you're dealing with a movie with guns, those are probably safe to say the most dangerous thing on the set, or most potentially dangerous thing on the set.
Usually.
So, like, wouldn't you think that's an area that maybe we spend this money? Like,
Especially if you're this anti-gun and you think that guns are horrible. You would think going into a movie with guns, you'd be like, okay, seriously.
and-
That much money when you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. It can't be that much money.
well, and I don't know. And
Shit, hire me, I'll go on.
well, that's what I was just about to say. I'm like, not that this is the point, but I'm like, realistically, what does a good armorer cost? Because personally, would that not be a dream come true to go on movies and like handle all the
Yeah, go
weapons, show
teach
people how to use
celebrities
them?
about gun safety.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. Not like that's the whole thing we're trying to do with this whole channel is teach people firearm safety. If you get to do that for actors and on movie sets, how cool would that be? So there's no way it can be that hard to find someone who knows what they're talking about.
And also,
And
like
you know-
we talked before, the Will Smith clip. If you've ever seen that,
I shared that on my page.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite videos.
yeah. You can't tell me actors just do what the prop armor tells them. That is not what you're told to do. Clearly, they're told it is your responsibility if you are handling a gun to know what you're doing. Like,
that's the coolest clip.
he slaps him.
I'm gonna share that again. I love
Yeah,
that.
I mean, go watch that if you haven't seen that. Just look up like what Will Smith
Will Smith.
gun safety. Put
yeah.
that in.
Yeah.
And you'll see that everything he's saying is pretty much bullshit.
The particulars, most importantly, of how a piece of live ammunition ended up on this property
It's the only thing that
What's
matters.
supposed to be on the
Yeah,
property?
that's the one thing
What's
I'm
supposed to be on the
confused about.
truck? What's supposed to be in the kit? What's supposed to be in somebody's fanny pack with a live round? That's supposed to be anywhere near the set.
How did a real bullet get out?
That's what I'm saying. That's for a criminal investigation to solve. I have no idea. I take that back. I have some ideas, but
I
that's not
think
for me
that
to say.
might be
That's
the
up to
thing.
the sheriff's department.
Not that I agree with like what he's saying, but I think that might be the one thing that I guess I can see where he's coming from is why was there a live round?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
It sounds like, from what I've heard, and I don't know how credible it is, but it sounds like some of the people on this film were dicking off and like they said they were shooting cans and screwing around with these guns.
Well, they said they already had a misfire. So if you already had one misfire, how are you not worried about a second one?
Like I said, especially him, a guy who's when he's like talking about like I've never had a problem and this. But then earlier he said something. He's like there was a discharge, but it didn't involve me. Okay, no, it didn't involve you, but it involved live ammunition ending up in a gun that shouldn't have been. So
I don't have anything to hide. You know what I mean? The facts as I see them are what I've stated on the record.
You're not worried about being charged.
I've been told by people who are in the know in terms of even inside the state that it's highly unlikely that I would be charged with anything criminally.
Imagine if it was any other person in the world.
In the
Just
aftermath
a
of the
normal
shooting,
person
authorities are investigating
shooting
how
for a
live
YouTube
rounds were
channel
lodged
that's
in New
not
Mexico City.
Alec Baldwin.
Earlier this
Right.
week, a search warrant was executed at an Albuquerque prop house owned by Seth Kenny, who told detectives he was hired to supply Russ with guns as well as dummy rounds and blanks.
PDQ Arm and Prop supplied the guns, the blank ammunition, and 50 dummy rounds to the show.
Kenny, who asked for his face not to be
Yeah,
shown,
those are
says he
45s.
wasn't the film's only provider.
It's not a possibility that they came from PDQ or from myself personally. When we send dummy rounds out, they get individually rattle tested before they get sent out. So if you have a box of 50, you've got to do it 50 times. And at that point, they're safe to send.
Baldwin says he placed his trust in Hannah Gutierrez Reed. According to that search warrant, the young armorer told investigators she loaded 5 dummy rounds into
Doesn't that have
Baldwin's
a better
gun
photo of her than
before
her
it was
Red
put in a
Dead
safe after the gun was retrieved from a safe. Gutierrez Reed's attorney has said she has no idea where the live rounds came from. He raised the possibility that someone may have deliberately mixed live rounds in a box of dummies in an act of sabotage.
First of all, you wouldn't bring a live round on the set. But second of all, why did you place that in the box?
Attorney for who?
That the armor
Hannah Reed.
The armor.
Everybody knows they're going to be getting it from there. Why would you do that?
What's up, Dalton?
Other than to
Yeah, that's a good
cause
source
some
to use.
incident on
Dalton
the set.
says, "Yo,
Her attorney
Yo, what's up?
what's up, Dalton?"
he believes the set was sabotaged. Do you believe the set was sabotaged?
Well, I didn't believe that Helena was shot and found out that she was shot with a live bullet. So there are things that I never imagined could happen, which turned out to have happened.
Why do they keep showing us damn
Do I
pictures?
believe that
There's
set
not
was
many.
sabotaged? No, because I can't imagine how that would have been affected. I don't know how somebody would have done that. I mean, in a world I was told in which one person loaded a gun, then another person picked up the gun to bring me the gun. Whatever happened in that preceding us rehearsing and her being killed, whatever happened, I don't know. But when he made those claims, I thought that's a big swing. That's an enormous charge to make. That someone came and did something. For what purpose?
Kind of like the one you're throwing
To
at the
attack
armor.
who? To discredit who? To harm
What?
me, the production.
He's saying it's a big swing of the guy who said that they were sabotaged, but is it not a big swing to say that somebody purposely gave you a live round?
No, he's saying that she is the one who claims somebody purposely did it. And he's saying for her to say that someone did it on purpose is a big swing.
Okay, then what's his theory?
I don't know.
That she was negligent?
Yeah.
Well, still, how
That's
would
not
that
as big
even-
a swing as saying someone did it on purpose.
But how would that have even happened? Like, I don't understand.
I think that's what
If it wasn't sabotage, then what was it?
I think that's what the criminal investigation is. But like I said, if they're shooting these things in between scenes and shooting shit, it's like
This
this is
seems like everybody's stupid.
yeah, that's exactly what if you read the group chat last night, that's what I said. I'm like, what I took away from this is there is a lot of people at fault, and this was a complete screw around set.
Very avoidable.
Believe sabotage is a possibility.
I know that some defense attorneys have come up with conspiracy theories and have used the word sabotage. We do not have any proof.
According to a search warrant, Assistant Director David Halls, seen in this IMDb photo, told investigators Gutierrez Reed opened the firearm used by Baldwin, but Halls could only remember seeing 3 rounds, and that he should have checked all of them but didn't, and couldn't recall if Gutierrez Reed spun the trunk. Halls also told investigators he didn't know there were any live rounds in the firearm, but his attorney has said it wasn't Hall's responsibility to confirm whether the gun was loaded.
No one's responsible.
That's what I mean. No one's responsible for.
Which I think is important, which is that I don't want to see anybody suffer unnecessarily. I feel terrible what's happened to Hannah. I do. I feel horrible what happened to Halls. I do. I mean, this is something where, as far as I'm concerned, someone put. The investigation is going to find out, but someone put a live bullet in a gun, a bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property. And this is the thing I hope that the sheriff's department doesn't.
Okay, why do they keep calling it a prop gun? Because the bullets are the only things that are prop, aren't they?
I think that's more and more to make it seem like not his fault, like it was a prop gun that was defective. No, it was a real gun that did exactly what it was designed to do.
Is there such thing as a prop gun? Like they're
I'm
guns.
sure there are ones that are like plug barrels or stuff like demilitarized, something like that is what they call like military ones where they destroy an important part of it.
It makes me sick because, I myself, I'm married, I got 6 kids, I want to just live my life in peace. And I've had all these people say you're a murderer, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. It's been very tough.
One of your brothers, Daniel, suggested that you've also become a target for your political.
If people don't like it when you shoot people.
Well, I don't think that anybody has said anything about and has used this as an opportunity other than people that you would fully expect to have done that.
Like President Trump.
The former president of the United States said that I'm a wacko or whatever, and I probably shot her and killed her on purpose.
Or loaded the gun.
He said I did it deliberately. He said he killed her deliberately.
I don't know if he actually said that.
And
That
I
is
thought to myself,
over the
I
top.
just really think that things can't get
Although we
I feel
said
like
it
if he
too.
said that,
Here's the former
it would have been
president
more
that's
news.
kind
I've
of
never seen that
distracted
quote.
situation. Which also brings me to 2 civil suits that were filed, which I find odd because those 2 people are lunging.
This part is kind of a dick
making
move
sure
by
their
the people.
suits are filed before the husband files his suit. They couldn't wait until Matthew, on behalf of his son, filed his suit
So you
first.
expect Matthew to file a suit?
Oh, but how could it be otherwise? His wife was killed as a result of someone's. I don't want to say negligence. Is not for me to use.
That's
that word
exactly
as a
what it
legal
was.
term.
It's not for me to use that word because it's the most damning word possible. What's up, Curtis? Curtis says gang gang.
I'm looking this up now.
Gang gang indeed. Yeah, no, I'd be curious to see if that's actually what he said. And if it is, like this just in, Trump doesn't choose his words super carefully.
It doesn't matter what Trump says. It doesn't matter what.
Yeah, but I didn't hear
Abraham
see if he
Lincoln
really
says,
said
like-
that he loaded and deliberately shot her.
that's pretty much. But yeah, like I love how he's trying so hard not to use the word negligence. I don't want to say negligence. Like, why not? Because it's kind of the perfect word to use.
It is the word.
Yeah. Oh, this is the part where I think he's being pretty fair, though. Like when he's like, "Do you think your husband's gonna follow suit?" And he's like, "How could he not?" Like, at least he's real about it. But yeah, it is fucked up. 2 of the coworkers, like people who also worked on the set, filed their suits like before the husband even did. And it's like, it's kind of shitty.
But,
A pretty Trump
something
quote.
happened here that resulted in his.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
What do you say?
It's kind of long, but I'll give you. There's like 4 quotes. He's a troubled guy. There's something wrong with him. I've watched him for years. He gets into fist fights with reporters. He's a cuckoo bird. He's a nut job. And usually when there's somebody like that, in my opinion, he had something to do with it. But if nothing else, how do you take a gun and just, whether it's loaded or not loaded, how do you take a gun, point it at somebody that's not even in the movie and just point it at this person and pull the trigger and now she's dead? Which he didn't pull the trigger, he just pulled the hammer.
Pull the hammer all the way back and then let go of it.
It's weird. Who would take a gun and point it at a cinematographer and pull the trigger and she's dead? Okay, Trump. As bad as it may have as bad as it may have been kept, meaning the people that take care of the equipment and the guns and everything else. But even if it was loaded, that's a weird thing. Maybe he loaded it. There's something wrong with him. He's a sick guy. I mean, I've seen him for years. There's something wrong with him. He's a sick guy. I mean, I've seen him for years because he did, I thought, a poor job of imitating me.
Oh, that's what it's about.
Okay.
As much as, the first half of that was correct, I'd like to see Trump handle it.
Couple of points from Trump, but also, like, top tier pettiness.
He's like, yeah, by the way, he did a shitty job making fun of me.
He's like, yeah, I never shot anybody, dumbass.
He's like, he goes, hey, you want to see my Baldwin impression? Bang.
I saw somebody say, they said if SNL has any sense of comedy, they'll have Donald Trump on and do an Alec Baldwin skit.
Oh, no. They couldn't do it.
No, they won't,
There's no
but
way.
it would be hilarious.
Oh, my God.
I think they'd earn their balls back if they did something like that.
For sure.
Was killed as a result of someone's, I don't want to say negligence. It's not for me to use that word. That's a legal term. But something happened here that resulted in his wife's death. He's
No,
entitled
that's,
to something as far as I'm concerned.
Clip from the Eric Andre show where he turns and shoots Hannibal Buress and goes, why did you do that? That's what that's it.
Why would the armorer do this? I think I'm going to have that done before the end of the night.
Well, I think that all the producers will be named. It remains to be seen which producers have the responsibility for hiring the people involved.
And you're convinced
You're a producer.
blame you in any way for believing
I can't speak for
Well, he doesn't have, the
When I
access
met
to
with
that,
him,
remember?
he was there. We went to dinner with his son. We went to the memorial service together. The crew did a little memorial service for her before we left, which was very beautiful, very simple. And I've communicated with him a couple of times since then, but I do believe he's gone off in a direction where he's not going to communicate with people at the advice of his lawyer right now.
I tried to save her life. Serge Spednoy, the film's chief of lighting, filed the first civil lawsuit against the production company and the crew
None of these
members
people look like
for
they're getting
visual
paid very much.
cinematography done, including Alec Baldwin. He alleged they failed to implement appropriate safety standards and measures on the Rust movie production. The second civil suit from script supervisor Manny Mitchell also alleged there were warning signs of the dangerous conditions that existed on set. The attorneys for one of the first script supervisor, Manny Mitchell, who filed one of the suits, said Mr. Baldwin chose to play Russian roulette when he fired a gun without checking it and without having the armor do so in his presence. His behavior and that of the producers on Rust was reckless. How do you respond?
There are two people that filed civil suits so far. And one of them walked up to me outside the church, probably within 15 or 20 minutes of the event itself, and put their hand on me and said, "You realize that you have no responsibility for what's happened here, don't you?"
Was this Serge?
No comment. One of those two. And now that person is suing me. Now, again, they're entitled to change their mind. More importantly, they're entitled to sit down.
That's his good legal advice. He came up, he's like, this isn't your fault,
Serge,
right?
For example, this is the only thing I'll say about someone's
No, even that's more
He's her dear
friendly. This is, you realize you're not responsible.
Yet he's chosen to file his lawsuit in advance of Matthew's suit.
Which was only so much money.
Well, if you get into settlements alone, that there's a pool of the insurance money, there's a couple different policies, there's a pool of money that's available that is finite.
Shocker that he is upset at the people who filed lawsuits against him.
Well, I think his point is before the dad. So it's in there. I agree with that. That's a dick move.
Why didn't the dad file
In
one yet?
advance of Matthew
I think he
filing
is,
his
isn't he?
That's what he said. He probably will be.
Unsettling.
What is he waiting
Serge
for?
said, I told ABC News.
Probably his
he did
attorney to
tell
get a
Baldwin
case
what
together.
happened that day
He seems
wasn't
to
the
know
I don't think
more
it's on
about the
these people
lawsuit.
to. I don't think it's on these people to wait.
He seems to know more about these lawsuits already
Yeah, he
than
seemed really-
firearm
He
safety.
seemed really well versed in that. didn't
If
he?
these people are on the set and stuff, this affects their livelihood as much as anybody. So yeah, I have no problem with them filing suits.
I hear you. I would agree. I would. It seems tacky.
I mean,
but-
yeah, if they did it the next day, okay, come on. But I mean, this is what
But yeah,
2 weeks out.
I do love how he's like, when he saw him at the gun, he's like, I put the clip in and pulled the hammer all the way back and let go, and I don't know what the hell happened.
Not
But
even
then
a-
he's like, well, you see, there's civil suits, and then there's the insurance is a pool of money, and you can settle out of court. And it's like, oh, okay, you know a lot about this part. Okay.
Not that it has anything to do with the shooting, but I like how he's using the word clip for a revolver. Not even a semi-auto
Well,
pistol.
he did say with what do you call it? Not modern. What was the word? Contemporary firearms. He was talking about the clip. I don't think he said it referring to this one specifically. He might have. I might have missed it, but
He definitely said the clip about the revolver.
oh, did he? Yeah, that's nice.
The actor should have checked the gun. When we come back, you felt shock. You felt anger. You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt?
Yes.
I love how they have the pause where really like George Stephanopoulos was probably talking, but they use that clip to make it look like he's like having Vietnam flashbacks.
If the answer is anything but of course, then he's fucked up in the head.
His life has become a recurring nightmare.
I'm not somebody who has a lot of vivid dreams, but I have dreams about this constantly now. I wake up constantly where guns are going off. These images have come into my mind, kept me awake at night, and I haven't slept for weeks, and I've really been struggling physically. I'm exhausted from this because I gotta try to be there for my kids. And my family's all I have. I mean, I honestly, I couldn't get on my career anymore.
Is it over?
But why? Well, it could be. It could be. If I decide that could I work? I'm going to go make another movie in January. And I said to him, do you want to get out of it?
Then why don't you say no,
Do you want to
stupid?
get rid of this? And I said, no.
Is your career over?
But I said,
No.
I don't want to work much more after this.
No, but I could be working in a few months.
For now,
Is your career over? I have no idea. It very well could be, but no.
Trying to stay out of the
Just a few months.
I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy not to talk to you. Now, please, would you just stop following us for the rest of this?
Just go home.
We gave you everything we could possibly give you, okay?
I think
This part right before he did say his kids were crying in the car. So I have seen that clip, but yeah, the actual clip, movie clip, not magazine clip. But yeah, right there when he's like, we said that as a curse. I've seen that clip probably out of context. Yeah, if they were like following them and they're like, okay, we'll give you 5 minutes, just please leave us alone now. You know, like paparazzi's annoying as shit to me, and I've never even like obviously.
Okay, but
I
if
haven't had
you
to deal with
shoot
it.
somebody, people are gonna want to know what the hell's going on. I don't think this is absurd to ask.
I don't think it's absurd to ask, but it's absurd to follow people around all day. I already have a problem with the paparazzi. Like that Tobey Maguire clip. There's a fucking car there.
Yeah, normally paparazzi are shit. I don't
I
care.
hear ya.
But
I
you
hear ya.
shot somebody. People deserve answers.
Trying to stay out of the public eye.
My kids are in the car crying. I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy not to talk to you. Now, please, would you just stop following us for the rest of this?
Just go home.
We gave you everything we could possibly give you, okay?
I think
You mentioned your kids. Have you been able to talk to them about this, or are they too young?
I had to tell my 2 older kids what happened, and my wife and I told them what happened, because they're going to go to school. And it's less about what kids say at school than what the parents say at school. I live in New York. I always loved living in New York because it was like you were one of many people, and nobody can who you are really until this happens. And then you're walking on the street. You see a
How
lot
old
of
is he
this.
that he has a
You
8-month-old
hit
kid?
somebody.
I thought that too.
There he is. You see a lot of this with people.
This man never
on
fires blanks.
their phone. Go like this. You see a lot of people behaving a certain way.
What would you caption a picture right now? Alec Baldwin at a New York coffee shop.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm a victim. I mean, again, we have 2 clear victims here.
Is this the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
Yes,
He's 63.
because I think.
You what?
He's
And
63.
I think of
Good
what
Lord.
could I have done?
What could I
Could have not shot somebody.
What could I have possibly done? I don't know. Don't point the gun at someone and pull the
They need
trigger.
to,
Or, sorry, release the hammer.
right when he asked that question, they need to play back the tape of him going, so I pulled the hammer back and then I just released it. And be like, that's what you shouldn't have done. That's right there. That's what you did
Because
wrong.
I think back, and I think of what could I have done?
Because all other bullshit aside, you still don't do that.
Right there on the surface,
Here you
you
go.
felt shock. You felt anger. You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt?
No.
What?
When you said if his answer is anything other than absolutely.
Did they not expect people to go this far in the interview?
I was like, bro, you're gonna have your own facepalm moment. He's so quick with that.
No.
You
No,
feel guilty? No. His
Then why are
answer
you
here.
crying?
His answer here makes me feel like he could maybe hang out in some of our meme groups. Not the gun meme groups, but some of the groups.
On the surface, you felt shock. You felt anger. You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt?
No.
Oh my god.
I feel that there is. I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
Yeah, this shit unravels real quick.
What the hell?
I've seen that as memes already. It's like when you show up late for work and your boss says what, it's like, I know somebody's at fault here, but I know it's not me. This is like if Michael Scott shot somebody in the interview after. Am I a hero? It's not really for me to say, but yes. Like this whole thing. It really gets the shit so bad. But hang on.
I feel that there is. I feel that
Right here, he's like, should I
someone is
say this?
responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me. I mean, I
Wasn't
honestly,
you,
If I
that's
felt
for
that
sure.
I was responsible, I might have killed myself if I thought I was responsible. I didn't say that lightly.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, if I thought I was responsible, I'd kill myself.
Hoping whatever it uncovers helps make sure a tragedy like this never
What about your fucking kids that you're so worried about?
What
Oh yeah, it's
come out of
terrible that
this
these
story-
kids are gonna grow up without a parent. But if it was my fault, I'd kill
what
myself.
changes can be made, because where you have a person, where, as I said, this is 1 in a billion, that someone puts a real bullet in the gun. That never happens. And the idea that a real bullet was in that gun and would come out of that gun and kill them, that was not even in the realm of possibility. And
Yes, it
that's
is.
the thing that they must find out, is who brought bullets onto the set.
She's a wonderful mom and a wonderful wife, and was just a wonderful soul. Is there anything that you'd like everyone to know about Alina?
Well, I work with some of the greatest cinematographers. And she was the loveliest woman, one of the loveliest women I've ever worked with. And one of the most professional in terms of her demeanor. After she died, all these statements are made by her friends and things about her, how loved she was and is.
I would have been lucky to have ever done another movie with another person like that, or with her, and I don't get to.
I think it's important to remember that she was as admired as she was loved. That's essential to see that, is that she's someone who people really, really thought she had a great talent.
Yeah, I don't think that helped him at all. Man, I'm trying to not be completely biased, but I don't. So, yeah, there's that. Okay.
So, post game thoughts.
I don't know.
That's like if you're coming off a tough loss and you need a statement win and you drop like a
He
you get
just
shut
seems-
up. That was bad. I don't think that helped him at all.
He just seems so worried about himself.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing. I think that was as much of a fluff piece as they could give somebody in this stupid, shitty situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Any ground I may have given at all,
from the first half.
I wasn't giving much. Anything I would have been like, yeah, okay, maybe. When he asked, do you have any guilt in this? No. Okay.
Instantly.
Yeah, like it was not even a question. Okay, well, you're a piece of shit.
He's already thought about it.
Even if it was 0% his fault, which it couldn't be because
I think a decent person would feel guilty even if it wasn't their fault. This is like the opposite. This is definitely, at the very least, if you're being as generous as you possibly can, can you in any way, shape, or form say it's at least not partly his fault? Like, I don't see any way to at all. Like, this isn't at all on you.
at the
Like the
very
guy
least,
outside the church supposedly told him, like, you realize you have no responsibility. I can't envision it being as generous as I possibly can about it, saying you have no responsibility. You were holding a gun, you pointed at a person, you pulled the trigger, the person is now dead. And you say you feel no guilt at all. It's just such a...
I think that's all you need to say. That's about it. That's okay. You're a sociopath.
Yeah. That like I said, that the ending was tough. I'm like, it kept getting worse.
I'll give credit to Stephanopoulos. I think he's a hack most of the time, but he asked a couple of good questions.
Well, and that's the thing, you have to. I mean, it can't, like you said, it can't be a total fluff piece. But at the same time, there's no way, if he's expecting, if he's got pending lawsuits against him, there's a even if it's the smallest possibility, there's going to be a criminal investigation. What are the odds they would let you go on here, not knowing what the questions are going to be, not having some kind of story
I guarantee
prepared?
you, his people looked at all of the questions.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way otherwise. I almost, I feel like his lawyers had to be looking at the prosecutors in the Rittenhouse case when he says he pointed his gun at him, and the prosecutors just over there like. I feel like his lawyers had to be like that for part of it.
I thought he was going to at least say like he pulled the hammer back and he tried to release it slowly, or it slipped or something. Because if it slipped, then it's just slipped out of my hand.
At least
but
it's an accident.
You're literally saying you were aiming the gun at her, pulled the hammer back,
and she's like, "That's good." So you let go.
If you're going to let the hammer go, wouldn't you at least stop aiming it at her? Why do you need to keep it aimed at her while you're pulling the hammer back and releasing it?
I don't know.
Speechless.
Now, like I said, I've seen a lot of like conspiratorial, like he did it on purpose. They could have been having an affair and they wanted her dead. Like you started to say that the story that she had some documentary coming out. I think some of that's a little much, like a little far fetched. But yeah. But at the same time, to completely exonerate any responsibility.
Well, I'll wait until the criminal case comes up. So I have no idea, because if there's some shit that they have reports that he was involved in, why there was live ammunition, then not.
Well, that's the thing. Like I
as of now, I don't think that he tried to kill her.
I said in my message, and I said when we started this is assuming that even what he's saying is 100% true, and like his take on it's wrong, but the facts are accurate.
This is like what I've said about the JFK thing. Even if it is what the government said it is, it's like that's still not good.
Yeah, pretty much. When it similar situation.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could remember. There was something where it was like a few months ago we were talking about something where it's like that's not good, but even maybe it was the Grosswitz dude, where it's like when it's like you're kind of spinning the sure way, but even then it's bad. Yeah, the only thing I have with like an external hammer is that like a 1911. Like I don't have any revolvers. I want one really bad, but the only thing I have with a hammer is that 1911. And even with that, I mean, you've seen me with that thing when that's coming out. It's the whole reason that this is actually relevant. That 1911 I carry, and John one time when I first got it, I went over there and he about lost his mind because he saw I had the hammer back on that thing, like carrying it around with the hammer cocked. And he was like, "What?" And he's like, "You realize if that hammer goes forward, it shoots?" I said, "Yes," but I had done a lot of research before I carried that thing. The military standard, because it used to be the military pistol, the way to carry that, the safe way to carry is with the hammer cocked and the safety on. The reason for that is if the hammer is forward, you cannot set the safety. just because of the geometrics of the way it works. If this hammer's forward, you can't set the safety. Kind of like I showed you with the AR earlier. But so you want the safety on. 1911s have a grip safety, so they're fairly easy to manipulate, but you're supposed to be holding it with the one I have, you have to have a pretty solid grip on for it to shoot anyway. But the reason is they're like the other way that people think is safer to carry it is with the hammer forward, which means the safety's off. And they're like, if you carry it with the hammer forward and the safety off, you either have to pull the hammer back manually, rack the slide, which pushes the hammer back, or I guess it's the hammer has to get backwards one way or the other. They're like, if you're carrying it with one in the chamber and the safety off, but the hammer's forward and you think it's good, they're like, you have to cock that hammer for it to do anything. Kind of like an old revolver, like he was describing. They're like, if you're doing that, one of the problems is if your thumb slips, it goes when you're not ready for it to go. So you can have your finger outside the trigger well, and if you're like, oh shit, you grab it, you cock the hammer, and you slip or something, especially with an adrenaline rush and something's happening, if you slip, the thing can go whenever it goes.
So if you pull the hammer back and release it, it shoots?
Yeah.
I'm fucking with
Oh,
you.
yeah. No, exactly. But like that's why you don't carry it that way. That's why the safe way to carry it is with the hammer back and the safety on. So, yeah, the fact that he just blatantly says that that's what he did and doesn't understand how that's equivalent to pulling the trigger.
It's like when a dude gets caught cheating, he's like, "She came on to me." Like that's a good, like, that's a good cover. Like, oh,
pretty much, yeah. They handed the gun to me and said it was empty. Or it's
Like-
more like I didn't know she had a boyfriend.
Nobody
Like,
thinks that they're like, okay, this is a loaded gun, Alec. Don't point it at anybody. And you just went, oh, and shot her. Like nobody thinks that's what happened.
well, there's people who think that he purposely loaded a bullet and they're just off this chick.
Well, we'll see.
But
I'm not speaking until criminal investigation.
I've been wrong before when evidence comes out, but I don't know. Yeah, shit's crazy. Either way, yeah, I think there's several people, definitely including Alec Baldwin, but the armorer, the assistant director, like I said, I hate to say it, but the woman herself for guiding him to do it. I mean, if he's dumb enough to listen, that's on him, but at the same time, like I said, if I'm doing a photo shoot for someone with a pistol, I'm not going to be like, little more to your right, little more, throw it right at me. No. Yeah. There's a lot of blame all the way around, it looks like, and it sucks. But I don't know. I think some of the details changed on, like I said, I know on our podcast, we joked about it. And some of the details, I'm sure we said, why the hell are you pulling the trigger and all? Something like that. You know, we probably said something like that. And
To me, that's not a distinction. Like I don't think that's.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't pull the trigger. I just
pulling
pulled
the hammer back and letting it go, like I said, is basically the same thing. But regardless, if that was an example, if we said something that we now that he countered with anything he said, I'm not saying we were 100% right, and we always say that you know we're not working on facts, but my opinion hasn't changed at all. That
new facts can always influence.
you're the primary person responsible.
Yes.
Maybe not the only one, but definitely the primary one. When the gun's in your hands, it's on you.
Yep.
So, yeah, we all got to watch it. No one's opinion changed.
No, my opinion got worse. I really thought the way that you were framing this before we watched, I'm like, is there going to be something in here that changes my damn mind? No.
When you said they teased, do you feel guilty? For like, if he says anything other than that, I was like, oh boy. No, absolutely not. If I felt guilty, I would have killed myself. Alrighty then.
Sick. Yeah.
All right. Well, any last thoughts?
I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Cardinal Tactical. Make sure, they'll definitely teach you not to point the gun at people and pull the trigger, unless the cinematographer tells you to, so they can get a shot.
Yeah, that's fine.
She got the shot all right.
Oh,
Jesus, bro.
All right.
That's a good way to end.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.